More than 1,000 Sikhs have been killed by Hindu mobs in the week since the death of Indira Gandhi at the hands of 2 Sikh bodyguards. But there have been acts of compassion and bravery on the part of Hindus who have come to the defense of the Sikhs. Rani Jethmalani is one of those people who stood up against the mobs. From New Delhi, we asked her for an eyewitness account of the days of rage.
On Friday and Saturday, that is the 2nd and 3rd of November, we took a group of lawyers, Supreme Court advocates, belonging to all various shades of political opinion, and some of them have no political affiliations. We went into the areas where people had been victimized and on whom a reign of terror had been unleashed in the most ghastly manner that India has ever known since the days of partition. There was a mob outside consisting of various antisocial elements and some, I think, communal elements who had been instigated and provoked into terrorizing the Sikhs, into keeping to their pockets and not coming out of that particular area which had been cordoned off by the police. I was with one other member of the group, since other members of the group were scattered in the area, and they were also being intimidated by other hostile mobs with sticks and rods and stones. Ultimately, my father, who was in one area of the crowd, he had also met a similar fate, and he had sat down on the ground and had told them that they could kill him, but he was not going to allow the innocent Sikhs to be left exposed to hostile mobs, and that was his duty as a citizen, and that is what he expected of them. The Delhi Pradesh Vice President was parading up and down in the car, instigating the mobs because he was intimidating both the Sikhs and who were at his mercy, and he was telling them that they would have to be there at his mercy, and he was instigating the mob to attack us for having come there and intruded and encroached on his particular area. We didn't see a mob when we went to the Vinod Nagar East. We saw carcasses, human carcasses who had been burnt. There were iron rods in their backs, and they had all of them were lying with their hair cut, and there was hair splintered all over the place. The bodies were stinking, and the women were too shocked to do anything about this. They were sitting and weeping in a corner. Many of them were crying. Many of them were absolutely desolate. In Vinod Nagar East, there was not one family that had been spared. Every male person had been killed, burned, made to parade around. Their sense of identity was attacked because they were made to cut their hair, they were asked to dance, and then they were burnt with petrol and kerosene by these hostile mobs who fled because they had been brought from various resettlement colonies, from where the Congress the ruling party, normally gets its mafia groups to attend to any of its political functions like the Kisan rally, like the bank loans. They had recruited from these particular areas. One of the women was looking up at the roofs, trying to find out where her husband was. We told her that we had seen one dead body at the entrance of the entrance to this particular village, and probably that was the body. We took her there, and she found that was the body of her husband. There was one lone male survivor in Vinod Nagar East, and his head had also been cut, and his bones had been fractured. We put them all in a car, and I sped across the street, taking them to the government hospital at the Willingdon Hospital, where, of course, I was encountered once again with some more shocking acts of inhumanity. I was told that this was not the place for this to be, this was not the hospital that would attend to them, since the jurisdiction of this hospital only was with regard to certain areas which were proximate to that particular hospital, and I had brought them from Vinod Nagar East, so I should go back to the hospital, which was another hospital in that surrounding area.
Indian troops patrolled the streets of the capital with orders to shoot troublemakers on sight. Military police stood guard at Sikh temples, and on national television, Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi gave a stern warning to his country.
Communal madness will destroy us. It will destroy everything India stands for. As Prime Minister of India, I cannot and will not allow this.
Throughout the day, there were scattered incidents of violence here and in other cities, but the show of force basically kept the lid on this volatile country after some of the most widespread religious violence since its independence. Some sections of this city still look like war zones. Many lost everything they had, like this old man, who sat in shock in front of his gutted apartment. Others began mourning the scores who died. Many had been burned, stoned, or lynched by furious mobs. Even those who weren't touched by the violence were still in a state of shock.
My own brothers, my own cousins, they're all Sikhs. It just doesn't make any sense.
There was, however, a sense of hope.
We will survive this tragedy, the worst tragedy of it. I said in this century it can happen with India, but we will survive this thing. We have got the power to survive it.
The Indian government is very fearful of more assassination attempts, especially with so many unanswered questions in Mrs. Gandhi's murder. According to a respected Indian newspaper, one surviving assassin says an unnamed general in the Indian army was the mastermind of the plot, and other Sikhs have reportedly vowed to kill Rajiv Gandhi and President Zail Singh, himself a Sikh.
Hindus are attacking them everywhere, enraged by the assassination of Indira Gandhi by her own Sikh bodyguards. Soldiers are patrolling the streets, but grisly murders continue. Sikhs were burned alive in this truck. Others have been burned alive in their homes by Hindu mobs. Some Sikh neighborhoods are nothing but smoldering rubble. Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi went on television again to plead for calm.
Disgraceful incidents of arson, loot and murder have taken place. This must stop forthwith.
But Sikhs are terrified that it won't stop. Don Murray reports.
As day broke, New Delhi was still a city besieged by violence. But by midday, the capital had achieved a state of uneasy calm, a calm imposed by the army, which surrounded public buildings and temples and had orders to shoot pillagers and looters on sight. There was little, however, to pillage. Most shops were closed. Burned-out cars stood on the street.
In some areas, no one moved without permission. It was severe, but it worked, raising the question why it had taken so long to use military or perhaps moral force.
The people of Janakpuri have lived and worked together in peace since the birth of this country, both Sikhs and Hindus. But that all ended within hours after the murder of Indira Gandhi.
Half of our property we have lost it. Everything has been burned. They give it bricks, they give it stones, they give it iron rods, iron sheets. What can we do?
Our shop is burnt, our house is burnt. Only we have saved ourselves. Nothing is there.
It seems as if every Sikh here now has a tale of senseless violence. Their community is horribly scarred. 3 generations of the Saransit Singh family are now homeless. Frightened people are still huddling for safety at a local temple, where others are being treated for their wounds. This old man was beaten and burned. Another had one ear sliced off. Johan Singh was defiled in the worst possible way for a Sikh, as his sacred beard and hair were shorn off. His wife showed us a picture of how he used to look. They don't blame their neighbors. They say it was Hindus from outside who attacked their town, but they are now forced to live with a fear and suspicion they've never known, in a country they've always been proud of.
This is our India. We are staying in our own country. We don't want to leave our country.
The question haunting this town now is whether the next generation will...
Food lorry had arrived. The Sikhs angrily told us that they themselves had arranged it. From the government, there's almost nothing, they said. And certainly we noticed a great shortage of food, water, and other essentials. Many of the Sikhs claimed the police had stood by and watched and even encouraged the rioting. The government wants to destroy us, they told us. They were eager to talk about the situation.
We are homeless, we are familyless, and moreover, above all, no safety. We can't imagine how we will